Years ago, when I was on the highway patrol, I stopped a driver for driving under the influence one night. And I placed him under arrest, and on the way to jail, he told me, he said, "I'm really glad that you're taking me to jail." He said, "I got paid today, and I went and spent all of my money on a video poker machine." And he said, "If I go home, my wife is going to kill me." Well, I realized that when he left work that day that he was tempted and he yielded to temptation. Well, my name is Richard Coleman, and I'm the pastor at Shepherd Church of the Nazarene in Lexington, South Carolina, and it's great to spend just a few moments with you today. I'm looking in the Gospel of Luke, and I'm looking at the place where Jesus is tempted. I realize that when you start telling about Jesus' temptation, it starts out by saying that the Holy Spirit led Jesus into the wilderness to be tempted. It's very clear in the Bible that God does not tempt us. It's usually our own self, our humanness, that tempts us. That's what one of the writers in the Bible tells us. When Jesus went into the wilderness, he was led by the Holy Spirit to go through some things that possibly would help him throughout his ministry. And I believe the same thing happens in our life, where God allows us to go through life circumstances, or even we could call them some test, to strengthen us so that whenever we're in a place where we need to make a really big decision, we've already had a little bit of experience. We could say, been there, done that, and we know that God will be with us. Well, that's what's happening in Jesus' life. He's gone out into the wilderness, he comes back, and he's tempted. I was talking to a older gentleman a while back, and he told me, and this was a great Christian, just a person that I just have a tremendous amount of respect for. And he told me that the older that he got, that sometimes the greater the temptations were. And so he taught me, and I've learned myself, that whenever we are tempted, we're tempted about things that where we have some type of weakness in our life. But as time goes on, as we get older, the temptations change, and we're tempted about different things. Well, I'm thinking about Jesus being in the wilderness, 40 days in the wilderness without food. You see, this was a real temptation. This is not something that we say, well, it was a little small test for Jesus. No, Jesus was hungry. And so the reason that this is listed in the Bible, because this is something that really affected Jesus' life. This was a true temptation in his life. And so we have the devil that came to him, and the devil tells him, he said, if you are the Son of God, then these stones, turn them into bread. In some ways, I guess I could relate that to someone coming to us, coming to you, and they would say, if you are a Christian, then you need to prove it to me. If you're a Christian, you need to do this for me, or you need to do this or that, if you are a Christian. And it dawns on me that we can't prove to anyone that we're Christians. Matter of fact, we probably should not try to prove to anyone that we're a Christian. But later in Jesus' life, he used an analogy, and I think that analogy really applies right here. Jesus said, think about the wind. You don't see the wind, but you see the effects of the wind. And that's the way it is in our Christian life. We don't have to prove to anyone that we're a Christian, but if we are a Christian, the effects of our life should be noticeable to people that are around us. Well, Jesus had been 40 days without food. And the devil was tempting him. If you're the Son of God, just turn these stones into bread. I try to think about that as Jesus humanly was feeling the effects of those 40 days. He would have been weak. His blood sugar would have been very low. He actually needed that quick energy which would have come from bread. But I believe two things. One was Jesus realized who was offering the temptation. It was the devil, and he didn't want to give the devil any credit and go do anything, because every time the devil gives us an opportunity, it is a trap, and it's going to do nothing but get us in trouble. And then the other thing I believe that Jesus was thinking about was God had gifted Jesus with the ability that he could have turned those stones into bread. But if he would have done that, it would have been a very selfish use of God's gift. And you know, God has gifted each and every one of you. And the question is, how are we using the gifts that God gave us? Well, may the Lord bless you and keep you. May his face shine upon you. May you truly use your gifts for God this week. Thanks for taking the time and viewing today.